Sometimes things happen that can't always be explained, and that's what we're going to talk about in this video. It's not Halloween, it's not actually near Halloween, but I think it's time that we spoke about some quite odd things. One of the things we're going to talk about is the hotel in Calgary, which is called the Cecil Hotel. This is an image of what the Cecil Hotel looks like at the moment. It was bought over in... when was this? 2009 for $10.9 million. In its final year of operation at the Cecil Hotel, the police were called to the hotel 1,700 times. So you can kind of guess things were not right at this hotel. The hotel's most famous case is of a woman called Elisa Lam, who acted so strange in the hotel. She is recorded on the hotel's CCTV from the elevator, in which she seems to go into the elevator, press all of the buttons and hide from something. She then sort of makes her way back out onto the hallway and does these really strange hand movements. Only when she moves away from the elevator does it then close the doors and go to the different floors. Her body was then later found in the hotel's water tanks, well, one of, at the top of the building. Now, the only way that you can access these is through an alarmed door, so an alarm must have gone off, and only staff members actually have the key to this area. Not only that, but she crawled into the water tank through this space which is just unbelievably tiny, to the point that when the authorities actually came to trying to get her body out of it, they had to cut a separate hole in the water tank. The hotel itself has just this grotesque history with it. It's been a home of many murderers. It has seen, oh my god, so many different suicides that have taken place for various reasons. There's been rapes, robberies, oh my god, just this horrible history. But when you actually read up about the hotel, it is actually quite an interesting read. You know, when the hotel was first created, it was supposed to be one of these luxurious hotels that people would go to and obviously spend a lot of money to stay at this luxury hotel. But not long after it opened, several other hotels opened that kind of sort of put it out of business a little bit. So the idea was, we're going to have to reduce the prices on our rooms. So straight away, near enough, it was a rundown hotel. The standards were really low. Now, a lot of people will sit there and say that's why it got all the fucking murderers in and the suicide people and everything like that. But I mean, over here in the United Kingdom, we have hotels that don't charge a lot for you to stay there, and you can stay in them for sometimes quite a long-term basis. Yet we don't have the murders or the suicides of that hotel. One of the other more interesting things that has puzzled me recently, in a sort of completely different thing to talking about a hotel, is actually a radio station. Now, yes, I'm an entertainer and I love my music, but I don't just talk about any radio station. Many of you on here will have heard of the radio station UVB 76. Yeah, UVB 76 is a radio station that broadcasts, we think, in Russia, and it actually doesn't broadcast any music. Instead, it broadcasts a beep. The beeping will literally go on for 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, but is interrupted sometimes by either a male or, I believe, a female voice has been heard on there several times, reading out these really odd codes that just don't make any sense. Even when translated into English, they don't make any sense. And many people in Russia who would be able to understand the broadcast in Russian are still left puzzled as to what these cryptic messages actually say. Here's a sample, see if you can try and figure it out.
УЗБ-76, УЗБ-76, 93, 882, на имена, 74, 14, 35, 74, девятка, тройка, восьмерка, восьмерка, двойка, Николай, Анна, Иван, Михаил, Иван, Николай, Анна, семерка, четверка, единица, четверка, тройка, пятерка, семерка, четверка.
Odd, isn't it? And it doesn't just end there. The oddness actually still gets worse, right? So years and years ago, there became these devices in which you could actually pick up on a signal and trace where that signal was being broadcast from. And that did work. But before the people actually got to where this place was, the radio station was literally ripped out of the building that it was in. Like, I've seen images and videos online of the building, and you can literally see where the people have just literally grabbed onto a wire and just yanked it out the wall. Like, the markings are still there to this day. The radio station now, though, is actually harder to try and track down because it shows as being broadcast from several different locations. Now, the last thing that I read up on about this was that it is being broadcast from 2 different locations. But how it can actually do that is a little bit past me. I have, of course, spoken about my own sort of haunting and spiritual experiences, but I kind of think that mine have been explained, but there are some that aren't explainable. For example, my haunting experience actually began when I got the keys to my flat where I live at the moment. And I remember I was stood in the hallway one night. There was literally little odds and sods in the flat, like the odd tin of paint here and there. There wasn't any flooring down, there was nothing like that. It was just kind of a shell, and like myself, my brother, a couple of other people would try and come and decorate when we could. And I remember being in the flat one night in the hallway, and I was taking pictures from the hallway facing into the living room to just kind of show off the flat a little bit, just to show this is the painting that we've done, this is what it's like inside and everything like that. And as I held up the camera to actually take the photograph, I remember seeing something in the bathroom, just sort of like a bit of a light, but then feeling something going behind me and going into the bedroom. Now, for those of you that have been in my flat, you will know that the bathroom door and the bedroom door don't actually line up. Like, it is not straight across from each other. The bedroom door is actually further down the hallway than what the bathroom door is. Not loads, but there is a bit of a distance. And I was stood in between the two of them. So for something to go around me was a little bit odd. Not long after that happened, I managed to get in touch with 2 people who were spiritualists. Well, I presume they still are. And they informed me that I was being followed by someone. Now, unlike the films that you guys may have gotten to see recently, this isn't a bad spiritualist following. I was actually told that the sort of spirit or the entity, whatever you call it, that was following me had a habit of putting her hands down her front. And this woman who was telling me about it, and she said, I keep wanting to do this. She's got something on and she keeps doing this. And she's hanging around the kitchen. She said, even though you're in our flat, which is away from where I live, she said, even though you're in here, she said, she's actually in the kitchen at the moment. She keeps doing this. And it was only later on when I was talking to my nan about this, and it was her mother who used to have the habit of putting her hands in her pinny, which would explain the movement on the front. She was always in the kitchen. The sort of family motto of that time was that, you know, you will come into this house, but you will never leave it hungry. And that's what she used to say. So she was often found in the kitchen baking things. So that was sort of my own haunting experience. And I thought that that period in my life had ended. That was until I got with my boyfriend. My boyfriend told me, ages ago, about a vivid dream that he'd had, and where he lives is sort of near quite a, not mountainous area, but very large hills in that area. So often when they get bad weather, or when the UK gets bad weather, his area is more affected than the rest of the UK. He explained to me about a dream that he had one night, where it felt as if he woke up during the night and went out to a window which is on his hallway. And in that window there was the figure of a black man with a black hat on and white hair. Now, to make this sort of more real, When he woke up in the morning, it had been snowing outside, and in front of that window is actually a pond. Well, it was until it got filled in. In the snow that had fallen on that pond were 2 footprints right in front of the window. There was no footprints leading up to them or away from them. There was just these footprints where that figure would have been stood. Now, I can listen to other people's haunting experiences and just kind of go, oh, yeah, that's okay, it's a nice story. But then me and my dog picked up on something one night. That very hallway where something happened, or my boyfriend thinks that he saw something in his dream. I was lying in bed one night. I was next to my boyfriend, who was flat out asleep. He was snoring his head off. My dog Trey had gone into the living room, which is at the other end of that hallway, and I presume it is probably about 2:30 in the morning or something like that, and I heard very loud footsteps. Now, these weren't just any old footsteps. These are, when you hear like a footstep and then a bit of jingling afterwards, if that makes sense. That's the only way that I can describe what I heard. And there were several of these footsteps, and they were quite loud, to the point my dog started barking. Now, you guys might think that's not kind of unusual for a dog to bark, but if you knew my dog, you would know that it's quite strange for him to bark, because he's a very quiet dog, and for him to just randomly start barking in the middle of the night is a little bit odd. Luckily though, my boyfriend has his flat surrounded by CCTV, so I of course immediately woke him up by almost jumping on him, and I made him go on his iPad onto the computer app thing and have a look at the cameras, because I've just heard something. So, you know, you sort of, when you're in that situation, you want to rule out several things. You want to go, okay, have we just been broken into? Is there someone in this flat? Who is it that's in the flat, and what do we do? He had a look on the cameras of the building. There was nothing. No one was around that building. I, being the brave one, had to go into the hallway, turn the light on, go down to the living room, and there was my dog just stood in the middle of the living room looking out to the hallway, where he must have heard them noises too. Now, as if that isn't actually strange enough, I have had another sort of weird but very real sort of dream, and the only way that I can describe it to you is by sort of tying it in with what I saw in a film recently. So what had happened in my dream was literally, it felt like it was only a minute long, not even that, like it was a really quick dream. And what had happened was, me and my boyfriend had gone to my mother's house, and my mother used to have her dining room table facing one way, but now has it facing another way. But in my dream it was the old way round, and there was sort of like a computer or something that my boyfriend had set up on this table. It was pitch black, it was night time at my mother's, and there was nothing sort of going on anywhere really. But my boyfriend said, oh, I've made this video, you need to watch it. So we went over to this laptop on the table, we started watching the video, and there wasn't anything on the screen that I can remember seeing, but I do remember the audio of the video that he was playing me on this laptop, and it was of him talking in a room, and all of a sudden you hear a loud echo behind his voice, and he starts then going, hello, hello, and you can sort of hear him as if he's sort of heard something and he's trying to talk to someone. It's at that point in the dream that I remember looking up, and my mother used to have the table facing that way. This is like sort of a map the wrong way around, but so my mother used to have her dining room table facing that way, and say for example, if you were to look straight over the table, there was the set of patio doors that lead out to the back garden. Well, in my dream I looked up at the patio doors, and there is a black figure. There wasn't any grey or silver hair that I remember seeing, but there was definitely someone stood there. And someone, this figure, turned round and started walking towards the back end of the garden. Now at the same time, this is where it ties in with the film, at the same time that happened, my boyfriend was stood next to me in the dream, and both of us were moved backwards into my mother's living room. The only way that I can describe that bit to you, many of you will have seen the film, oh my god, what were they called now? There was 3 of them. Insidious. And I think it was in the second Insidious film where they are in a room and they're trying to find the mother or something like that, and she has shouted at someone and then turns around to Elise and the other man, and they get pushed out of the room and the door slams behind them. That is what it was like in my dream. So to try and eliminate some of the things, I hadn't seen that film in a long time before having the dream where I felt that me and my boyfriend were pushed back. There has been no paranormal activity in my mother's house recently, but there has been in years gone by. So all of these haunting things that are really, really weird, sort of from time to time do play on my mind. It's kind of the reason why for most of this video I've actually been looking at the doorway of my bedroom, because I keep seeing little things that are taking place. But this is where I want to throw it open to you guys. What do you have in your dreams, and what do you think that your dreams are trying to tell you? For example, when I was growing up, I used to have a repetitive nightmare. I think I had it probably about 5 or 6 times on separate occasions. And it was where I was in my bedroom at home and something was after me. And I don't know what it was, but something was after me. And I remember going to the top of the stairs and trying to run down the stairs, but it felt as if something was holding me back. To the point I would try and run faster. To the point I would be sort of, you know, like a step is normally shaped like that. I would be running on that part of the step, like literally facing downwards trying to run, but I still wouldn't be able to run fast enough. And I've spoken about that dream to many people over the years, and everyone gives their sort of different versions of it. I have my own sort of theories on it, but I will bore you with that on another video. So yeah, comment below and let me know what your strangest dreams have been, the ones that you remember, and see what insight you can get out of your own dreams. Try and do a bit of an analysis. The other thing that I will also say about this is that yes, there are many famous cases of things that cannot be explained, and of course there will always be famous cases, but not every case gets reported as that, well, as much as the famous ones do anyway. So have you had anything sort of unexplainable happen to you? And if it was, what was it? And share your story with us below. I'm sure that there will be many interested people wanting to read your story. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you guys soon.